much for an order of ribs?
$2.50.
$2.50? How many ribs do I get with that?
About 5.
5? So I guess that's about 50 cents a rib, huh?
Yeah, about.
Let me get one.
Right on. One order. One order ribs.
No. One rib.
One rib.
I sure am hungry.
Make that one rib to go.
One rib?
One rib. What else?
You got any soda?
$1.
Oh, come on now. Look out for a brother, man. Come on. Hey, check this out. Why don't you let me get a sip for 15 cents?
My cups cost more than 15 cents.
All right, fuck the cup. Pour it in my hand for a dime.
Look, you greasy-headed Jerry Curl Wand. Pay me and get the hell out of my store.
You got change for 100?
Look, we're gonna need an orthopedic surgeon to remove my foot from your ass.
Hammer.
No, brother, don't do it. You know the customer is always king. Hammer! Hey,
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Man Cave. We are Jamie, Ryan, Corey, and Hamper. You listen to the Much About Nothing podcast, a show where we give expert takes, good-hearted debates. We talk ball and anything and everything else. Today, we talking anything and everything else. We talking about that money. If you got something to say, put it into the comments. If you're new to the pod, greetings. Hit the subscribe button. Turn on the notifications. Smack that bell. If you have not been hitting the like button, please hit the like button. It's important to help our algorithms. If you are already part of the fam, welcome back. Please like, share, and comment. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Let's get straight into it. Corey, what's up?
Yes, man. We're definitely excited all day to get into this topic. Let's dive into this. I'm gonna go in here and start it off with the first question. You go in here and moderate this thing, man.
We getting into minimum wage. Minimum wage. All right. So, Ryan. Hey, man. That's what it is,
bud.
man.
What's up, man?
Hey, man, we got to talk about this, man.
What are we talking about?
We talking about minimum wage. What is your takes on minimum wage?
It's ridiculous. Honestly, in some sense. But I get it from a business standpoint. I think that the value or the gauge for minimum wage is terribly skewed. It's terribly off. And I don't know why. Right? I looked at some statistics on it, and the numbers really don't correlate state by state. They're kind of all over the place. And then I also looked up average rent in the United States. Right now, the average rent in the United States is about $13.39. You take that divided by 80 hours, that's $16.73 an hour. There's not a single state in the United States that has $16.73 an hour as minimum wage. How can people afford to live? But on the flip side, you have to make a profit in order to stay in business. And you need people to do it. So I think it comes down to decision making and what people are willing to accept.
Okay. What's your take, Jamie?
Like he said, it's skewed, very skewed. I mean, they're trying to up it. I mean, we was at what $7.50 for a while until this year. Now they moved up, and it's supposed to go up to at least 12 soon in the upcoming years. But it's kind of moving kind of slow. But I mean, it just depends on what field you're working in too, as well. So it's very skewed.
What about you, Corey? What you got?
Well, I mean, the minimum wage, like something said, it varies per state. And I get into the reasons why that is. I mean, there's several reasons why the minimum wage is set the way it is. The same way Jamie said, yes, it is moving slow, but I believe a lot of these things happen for a reason, and it is very, very delicate situation. It's not as easy as said. If it was that easy, we would been moved past. I mean, it's a lot of people trying to been moving this thing for years, but it's a lot of delicate situation with especially small businesses. There's a lot of things that goes to the in and out of why the minimum wage is at the place that it is and why it varies per state. And I mean, we can get into it and definitely knock it off about the arguments for the minimum wage being increased to $15.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and tell you this. My take on minimum wage.
Mhm.
Minimum wage is if I could pay you less, I would, but the government won't allow me to.
Mhm.
Like that essentially, in literal terms, that's what I take from minimum wage. It
Mhm.
means that if there was no regulations whatsoever, I would pay you a lot less. But this is what I'm gonna give you right now, and that's it. And I man, I got a lot of opinions on this. Let's put the first topic on it, and let's go into the first one is arguments on it.
Yeah, for the increase of the $15. For the increase to $15 minimum wage.
It's at 12 right now, so
So
it
it's
just
12.
went
Where
from
in Virginia?
Yep. So in
Yeah, it's
yes,
Virginia,
12 in Virginia. As of this year, January of this year, it's
January
12.
1st, 2023 is $12, and it's gonna
Mhm.
stay there for a little bit. It jumped from 7.50, 7.25 to $12. That's
Mhm.
it's a big jump, but it's not it's not matching up with the cost of living.
yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
hey Ryan, man, I know you always have your calculator handy. I got a question for you, man.
Mhm.
If you make $12 an hour
Yep.
and you work 40 hours a week,
Mhm.
how much is that annually?
Annually,
Yeah.
480 was every 2 weeks, 960, and then 26 pay periods, about 25,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's 25,000.
24 960.
Okay. All right. Do you know what the poverty line is in Virginia?
That I am not aware of. Anybody know?
Mm-mm.
Let's look. Let's see.
It's 29,000.
Hmm.
Now, I
Wow.
mean, now I'm gonna tell you my personal take on this because I've been arguing with myself, man. How deep do we want to get into this conversation?
Hmm.
All right, and I decided I'm gonna go as
What
deep
year
as
is
y'all
that?
go. Man.
What year was that?
That's this year's.
Hmm.
That's
Out
this
of 2
year's.
months.
That's the poverty line, man.
Out of 2 months, but not even two.
Well, September 14th, 2022. That's what the number was. So I'm counting it as this year.
Hmm. Is that a so? Part of the difficulty in this discussion is the different variables that go into it, right?
Hmm.
Um, and it's the economics behind it, it's the profit and loss behind it, it is the tax breaks behind it. Um, what still bothers me though, right? Good for Virginia, right? I'm glad they did $12. There's still 20 states that are 725.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Most of the states in the South have no state minimum requirement. It's federal.
Mm-hmm.
The state of Georgia minimum wage is $5.15, and anybody that operates under the Fair Labor Standards Act has to pay 725. So, like you said, if they could pay you less, they would.
Hmm.
Um, I am a firm believer. This is just my opinion, right? I think it comes down to self, bro. Um, my life is worth more than that an hour. My time is worth more than that an hour. Not to veer from the topic, personally, I don't think. Are we asking about the $15 increase across the board,
Mm.
or are we just asking particularly in the state of Virginia?
Across the board, because
That's
New York
enough.
right now it's $15 an hour.
Federal.
Uh, Federal.
I
New
said
York
federal.
is the highest paid. The highest paying minimum wage is District of Columbia at 15.90.
Yeah.
California is
California.
$15. Washington State is 14.49. Massachusetts is 14.25.
Yeah.
Connecticut is $14. Oregon is 13.50. New York is 13.20.
Yeah, 2023, New York is 15. I'm looking at it right
No,
now.
so they moved it. Yeah, so these I
And
think
they-
these are 22 stats.
And they're going to raise in 2024. They're going to be 17.25, and in 2025 they're going to be 19.25.
So,
but
the thing is, no, it's impossible.
Exactly, because New York City is very expensive.
Well, not even just New York, but if you think about the gap between $7.25 and $15, that's more than a 100% increase. State governments would go bankrupt quick. Companies would go bankrupt very quick.
But what they?
Because they would. They would.
Okay. We're gonna get in that too. We're gonna get in that for a second because I know that I can see how Corey is rocking in his seat. He is fundamentally opposed to this, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm on the opposite side of this thing.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm saying. I think before we get into why I don't think that it would fundamentally break anything, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you my personal opinion on this, and then I'm ready to go, Corey. This is about the value that you put on human life. It is amazing to me how we put value on certain lives. Like we put value on certain things and then we completely devalue other parts of it. Like if you really let's stop and think about the basic 24 hours that you are given each day. We would argue that 8 hours of it should be going to sleep. That's what we would argue in an ideal situation. You got 8 hours going to sleep, and then you got your commute to work, whether it's there and back. And the average commute is, from what I'm reading, is about an hour. And then if you go to a place, usually at these minimum wage, they don't pay you for your lunch. So you got to take that time on top of it. So let's go ahead and put 2 hours on top of that 8. So you're at 10 and you're at 8. And then you got 6 hours. What is left to you? And you mean tell me those 10 hours that you're only going to get paid for 8 of them is only going to be worth $40 take home? There's not a man laying on his deathbed right now that wouldn't want to get that $40 back and get them 8 hours back. There's not a single man. There's not a single man that will lay on his deathbed and say, you know what, that was a good idea. It's a terrible idea. It is terrible. And the fact that we sit here and I know that we're about to justify this 8 hours, I'm ready for it, Corey. I'm ready.
Justify 8 hours.
I mean, we're gonna not only the 8 hours, we're gonna justify this minimum wage on this 8 hour day. We're gonna justify it. So let's hear it. What you got, Corey?
Well, first of all, as you jump to conclusions, no, I'm excited at looking at this chat. I like the questions that Tiff are. It's just always surprising to me how much her questions are the same questions that I put forth, and she put it forward. I was surprised of that. I wasn't excited at all. I don't disagree with the whole situation that need to be raised. My thing is the question is, does that fits the problem? I don't think that actually fits the problem. Franklin D. Roosevelt was the person that implemented the Fair Labor Standard. He put it in 1938. It was first implemented at 25 cents. That would equate to $4.25 an hour today. It has been raised 20 times since then. Congress has increased it that way, and it's designed to fits inequality and social disparity and all these things, but it has not done it one single time. You raise it up to $15. I don't think that really is attacking the problem. I think a lot of these things that we look at, we think it could be easily fixed with money. The problem, your argument is an argument against poverty. Poverty has existed since the beginning of time. If it could have been fixed, it would have been fixed. And what I will bring today is just the facts of what it is, what lies at our feet, and what's the problem, why things are the way it is. Because it's simple to say that these things are problems. And I would agree, they are problems. I don't like poverty. I wish everybody can live in a utopia, but that is not the world that we live in. It's not a perfect world. This world is mean and hard.
Hey, Corey, I gotta hit you with this one though. And that's part of what I was saying about these statistics, right? There's a conversation that has to be well rounded. Kudos to Roosevelt for starting that minimum wage at $4.25, bro. Mm-hmm. It cost $420 a year to go to Harvard in 1938. Mm-hmm. It's $55,000 a year now. Okay, mm-hmm. So let's do the percentage on that. You're talking thousands of percent increase versus hundreds of percent increase on the wages going up, right? My argument is that across the board, universally, $15 an hour, $15 in Idaho, you're rich compared to $15 in California, $15 in New York. It doesn't balance the scales the appropriate way. Tawana made a point. It's the value of the job, not the person. Coming out of college, you try to get a minimum job, they'll tell you that you're overqualified for it. But personally, I feel like why stop anybody from getting any job? That's the case, right? If somebody is willing to do the work, why not hire them? They know what they're signing up for, right? That's what we say. It goes back to the same thing that I constantly tell y'all in the group. The way that you value your time is the way you'll value your money. I, for myself, I agree. My life is worth more than $56 for 8 hours. And can't nobody tell me different. But the reason companies, government standards, and everyone else gets away with it is because you accept it. We accept it. You accept it.
It's
right? Because you can, as a person who has the idea or the ambition to make more, you can make $50 in 20 minutes.
Okay.
On your own.
So and to combat what he was saying about statistics, I'm gonna tell you, man, you can find a statistic to support anything you want to support.
Anything. Correct.
But we're talking about going through the longest period in history without an increase. The federal minimum wage today is worth 17% less than it was 10 years ago. And 31% less than it was in 1968. So, your numbers, I get where you're going at with your numbers, but you can find numbers to support anything. I'm pretty sure you might even find a number.
Did I say anything about? I said no. I agree. I don't think y'all hear me. I agree with it being increased. I'm wondering, what's the attack come from? I said I agree with the.
We ain't attacking you.
I thought people were saying. I was saying
you made a percentage argument.
Problem. Yeah. I don't think it fixes the problem, but I agree that it should be lifted.
Because for real, I was trying to decide how I was gonna go about this. All right, but I see more minimum wage people in Jordans than I own. I see more people traveling that's making minimum wage than I travel. Right. So I think it comes down to how you manage your money, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Personally. So.
I think that's another episode about, how responsible we are with our money. But sticking to this minimum wage thing, right? So I know you were talking about how businesses and how governments couldn't support it. When you start talking about below the poverty line, that's why I threw the poverty line out there. These people are already getting subsidized when they're below that poverty line.
No question.
So what you got to realize is, you're saying that it's better to keep them below the poverty line and subsidize them, to give them Section 8 housing, to give them SNAP cards as we have out here, or to give people things to support them being able to be alive so they can go to work and work these minimum wage jobs, as opposed to paying them a fair wage that they could be proud of and feel good about earning the money that they're going. And again, man, I don't want to sound as negative about the institution, because you said me and Corey have these arguments all the time, and sometimes I feel like I'm being extremely negative. I think what really frustrates me is I think that America has the potential to do a whole lot better.
Correct. No question.
But everybody will know that, man, when you get in a relationship based off of potential, you might get disappointed. And if you tie it back into yesterday's conversation about canceling and this, that, and the third, these conversations ought to be had. That we shouldn't be talking about what celebrities wore yesterday. We need to be talking about these types of things that matter. And minimum wage does matter.
It does.
And because this will spin off. You can take minimum wage, in my opinion, and I think that minimum wage is a catalyst to a lot of other socioeconomic issues that we have. I don't believe, I've said before, I don't believe in black and white crime. I think that crime is a socioeconomic issue. I think you put a bunch of people, a bunch of have-nots in one place, and no matter what color they are, you're going to get have-not problems. And minimum wage is a have-not problem.
Well, yeah, I agree, but at the same time, I think that there's a fine scale, right? I don't know if y'all ever heard this saying, but there's a saying in the economy that there's no free lunch, right? And this argument, the one that you're making, is literally kind of the base framework to socialism versus capitalism, right? Where we're talking about everybody deserves at least a chance. And then we're saying on the other end, the ones that are getting up to go do it, because at the end of the day, like, just give you an example. The reason that none of us make minimum wage right now is because we value ourselves and our time. And we understand, because we've been around business enough now to see that, wait, hold on, something's not right with this, right? We see internally within companies the grave difference in pay from the bottom to the top. So, with raising minimum wage to a certain level, there will come a risk of inflation, and prices are going to go up again, because if these companies have to pay their people more, then they have to make more, which means now you're still in the same problem. You raise the minimum wage to $15, but now gas is steady at 6. You know, is the balance of the scales. Now I will say these companies are, America is driven off greed, right? And that's just the reality. Your profit lines, your profit margins. You know, one of the things we talked about, Hank, was how the numbers that you create, the numbers that you drive, create access to credit lines, to loans, different things like that. So companies really do try to manipulate that bottom line. But raising across the board that minimum wage, I think, would cause a ripple effect in a lot of other areas. So, I mean, people should deserve a minimum. They deserve a living wage. But what is a living wage?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Because
what Thomas asked.
why is it that you, if you're making less, if you're making a certain number, like let's say $15, why are you comfortable only making $15?
Like I said, I think that's a different debate. Like I think that's different. I think, like, if the question is what's the number, what the minimum wage be? If
Mm-hmm.
that's the number, I think
Pop,
that
Pops just
go what
asked
you
that question.
yeah.
Mhm.
So like
Mm.
if that's the question, if the question is, I think that the federal government does it right. Like they try to put it in the state's hands because it is different from state to state. But that poverty line from each state, there should be no way that there's a mandated minimum wage that is below the poverty line. There
Mm.
should be this country that is so great. I don't think that you should work 40 hours and be under the poverty line. I think that's a basic understanding. I think that we all as human beings know that you should not go to work for 40 hours anywhere and be below the poverty line. I think that's
I don't
the
think you should go
first
to work for
standard.
40 hours at all. But that's another
Yeah, I
topic
know.
for another day.
I agree. I agree, but yeah, not today. But yeah, so yeah, that's the first part. So I think that's how you figure out what the bottom is.
Yeah.
Secondly, secondly, you brought up a great question because the assumption that if we raise minimum wage, the companies are going to increase the prices to maintain the margins. Why do we have to accept that?
We do it every day.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But we'll cancel a comedian.
You're not canceling the gas station because you need it. You're not gonna cancel eggs because you need them, and they know that. There's a difference in a commodity product, and like variable and fixed assets are a thing, bro. Like the things that you need, you're gonna buy, and they know that. When gas was $4.50, people were still filling up their cars, right? Like some people gonna put 8 on pump 10. But for the most part, like the thing that you have to have is where you see that biggest mode of inflation, which a prime example that you're saying right now, the reason that a lot of these products are skyrocketing is because they don't have the truck drivers to drive the trucks. Supply and demand. You don't have the availability to get the products on the shelves. You got to drive more to be able to pay more to get more people to come in. That's the way of the game. That's how that game is a chess game. Now, could we all come together and make some changes happen? No question. Will we all do it? No. Because now what it comes down to is how bad do you want it? How bad you
Man,
want it?
I'm gonna tell you. Sometimes I do know that scarcity exists, but I know that scarcity can be manipulated.
It is manipulated all the time.
Yeah,
All the
I mean,
time.
I know it. I know it. And again, my next thing is like I said, I believe that that's the reason why regulation has to be involved in this.
Yeah.
Jamie, what you think, man? You got a lot on your mind, man.
No, I'm just listening. I'm
What
listening
do you
to
think the minimum wage should be, bro?
I said you find the poverty line.
That's
Poverty is
per
the minimum.
state. Per state.
Yeah, poverty is the minimum.
Bro, I to be honest, I don't really know how much minimum wage should be because I haven't made minimum wage since I was in high school, so I wouldn't really know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so let's get some of these comments.
So for example,
Yeah.
real quick before we move on, so $7.25 an hour, we broke it down to be $24,960 for it, right? The average, the poverty line in the state of Alabama is $13,000.
Okay.
So they've doubled the poverty line. You see what I'm saying? Right.
Okay.
So I mean that's a piece of it too. All of there's a lot that goes into that. So in the state of Alabama, they ain't tripping off $7.25. They living good. But in the state of Virginia, which definitely not saying it. You get in theory, but but so I guess I agree with that. But some of these states are at the poverty line, right, or above it. But somewhere like New York, ain't no what I know. 13, 15. You said $15, Jay, and then it's going up to 19 in a couple years. $15. There, nah, man. Like that ain't enough.
But think about what jobs are in that city. Most of these people are like they working for the World Trade or whatnot.
Yeah.
But or they're in college, they're NYU, they're St. John's and stuff like that. But I mean, it's so much. So they have to tax everything. They have to tax everything. Virginia tax everything. I don't care what it is. They got a hot, cold food tax.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, they terrible with these taxes, man.
Yeah,
they terrible with these taxes.
I like what Jamar just put in here, right? And shout out Jamar, man. Welcome back. All right, so I'm going to say something, and this may be the conspiracy theorist in me, but I think that at some point, what'll end up happening is companies will decide that it may be cheaper to pay for a robot to do certain things.
Oh, they already started that, bro. Chick-fil-A got a whole line that just gives you the food out the window after it's made.
Okay.
It's a McDonald's with a robot that makes their food now.
Yeah, that's cute. That's cute, but you see more outsourcing in India than you do robots.
Okay, but hear me out. Whether it's the robots, whether it's the outsourcer, he said, what happens to jobs at all? It won't. I believe that in our near future, we will see less jobs.
Bro, right? They're trying to get rid of umpires in baseball for robots.
Okay, but
that's crazy.
Just hear me out here, right? There will become a time where the scarcity that we talk about, like these commodities you're talking about, those scarcities might be jobs, right? And I believe the only solution that we should be talking about is some type of universal income anyway before we even get to that part. I believe that we're getting to a point where universal income is going to be just as important as universal health. And right now, as some of us, we can't see the forest for the trees, but if you didn't pay attention to what happened during this pandemic and saw the price gouging, you see all types of things, and you see how we came out with the stimulus packages and things of that nature, man. I think there should be some type of universal income to ensure that no American goes below that line. And what do you pay for that at? Man, I think at some point we have to figure out, like, when are the margins too high? When are the margins too high in business? And I know that you believe in you make as much as you can make and this, that, and the third. Well, here goes the thing. I know Corey, because we had this, like, if you make a business, you make as much money as you can make and this, that, and the third. But here goes the thing with that. The taxes. That's the issue.
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
So they say they do raise minimum wage, and it gets to where you can live comfortably. they're gonna tax it, and you're gonna give it right back to them, not even in taxes, as
And
a
consumer.
consumer
Correct.
market. You can give
Correct.
right back. So then you're
Correct.
right back where you started.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's a give and take.
It's a matter of choice.
Yeah,
It's
like
a
what
matter
you
of
say,
choice.
like what you say about the minimum wage in California being $15. Also, the price of a coffee in California is like $4. The price of a
Oh,
cheeseburger.
like 7.
The reason why 800,000 is the average home in California. When you raise that prices, companies ain't going to do nothing but say, okay, we're going to raise our prices and cut the bottom line. They're going to cut the worker. They're going to maintain their profits. And if you try to force them even farther than that, they're going to ship out and outsource. You can't force a company that gets the means and money to move. They can ship their companies overseas, and that's millions of jobs lost. At the end of the day, you need jobs. At the end of the day, people need jobs. And I agree that I love capitalism, but I agree that there are problems in capitalism, such as greed and monopolies. But it's not easily fixed, as some people would portray. It's very, very deep. In states, I'm a component for states operating, because you don't like the way your states handle things.
Move.
You can get up and move. I can go to another state. That's the belief. My belief system is states govern themselves. It's the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment says that federal government only has the power to delegate in the Constitution. If it's not listed and goes beyond that, it goes to the states. The states operate how they want to operate.
Well, now here's the thing, right? Now I ain't going on no tangent because I can go all day about this. Well, let me tell you, the first thing that needs to happen is the people really need to start talking to the government about the federal tax rates first, right? You're paying too much money in taxes, whether you believe it or not. And a lot of that comes down to the same thing I have said since January 1st, stop hustling, do business. I'm not telling you to evade taxes, but what I'm telling you is stop hustling and do business. The first thing I tell an employee now is when you sign up for a job, the first thing you should do is get a 401k. Why? Lowers your taxable income. It's money you're stashing away for the future. If you ever need it, you can create a means for yourself in the near future, and you let them match it. All right. You got to find ways to lower your taxable income while also benefiting you in the future. But like Corey said, capitalism is a structure that is very hard, and it's only gotten worse. And when I realized that we were at the peak of capitalism being bad is when I realized that a United States citizen can fly rocket ships. Okay. That's when I realized we had a problem, right? When we started letting normal human beings put rocket ships on NASA bases and shoot rockets. Meanwhile, most of the people that are working sweeping up the floor can't afford to do anything. HSAs as well, Tip, absolutely. Invest your money. It's the consumer. It's consumer mind is the reason why the government and the regulations continue to get away with what they do, because people are gonna spend money. That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna spend money on things that don't last long enough because we are a people who have become conditioned to instant gratification.
Man, I think y'all have a little faith in the humanity that we have. Like because okay, your answer is if we push these businesses too big, they will leave and go to somewhere else.
Yeah.
You said what? If you do what?
If you push them, they're gonna leave and go.
No, they're gonna stay.
Man, do you realize, Corey, that these CEOs aren't the brightest there's somebody next up that will fill that void. Take your business and go. Go. If that's how you feel, if you feel like the only way for you to operate, the only way, like, because we had this debate before at one point in history. There was a lot of people that felt like in the South, there's no way we're going to be able to survive if we get rid of these slaves. Like, there's no way that we will be able to survive. And luckily, that those people were overruled, because there is a way to survive without slaves. There is a way. Like Corey, get that out your mind. There's no way.
Two opposite arguments. I think
that's two. Yeah, I think that's two.
I'm just saying
two opposite arguments.
Man, listen, man, you know exactly what I'm saying.
That is a fallacy. That's a strong fallacy. To say, okay, you're equating capitalism to that, like, nah, it's not the same.
I mean, look, at the end of the
have that, but nah.
Do you You need multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
Point
Wow,
blank
see,
period, bro.
man,
No, would you disagree with that?
Man, listen, that's
Do you disagree with
again,
that?
I'm not disagreeing, but I just think that's a different conversation. Like when you start talking
It is
about
not.
the minimum wage. All right, so what you're saying is the only reason you're poor is because you're not working hard enough.
No, that's not what I'm saying. You don't have to. When you have multiple streams of income, you don't have to work hard. You got to work smart. There's a big difference.
The idea
There's
of
a
capitalism
huge difference.
is for you to participate in capitalism. You're
Correct.
not supposed to stay a consumer.
Correct.
You're
You're supposed to flip.
You're supposed to be a business.
Correct.
The idea of capitalism is to become a business person.
What I just tell you earlier on the phone today, Hemp, you need, when people get to the point where they realize that they're an entity, just like a business, that's when things change.
Man,
That's facts. And you
Man,
are already against it, but that,
I'm
let's
not
say
arguing.
you're
I'm not
proponents
arguing.
for
I'm not arguing.
I
I'm
want
not
to hear the
arguing against it.
components for socialism, because everywhere socialism has been implemented, it has failed demonstrably. If you look at places
That's not
like
true.
Russia, look at places like Soviet Union, Russia. Look at Fidel Castro.
Man,
Look at Venezuela. Look at all of these places where it has been implemented. Now, if you're going to state places like Canada that has socialist programs, we have socialist programs.
Okay,
and I'm with you there. I think socialism.
Hold on, Corey. I'm gonna tell you some places. I'm gonna tell you some places
Yeah,
where socialism
name.
really works. In the shipyard, socialism works.
Yeah,
In the military, socialism works.
yeah. You think it works?
Tell me it don't.
Jamie, right there. Jamie,
No,
do you
it's
agree with?
capitalism. It's
Yeah.
capitalism
Do you
at the shipyard.
No,
my
no,
brother.
no.
It's
We talking about
capitalism
the
at
way
the
they pay
shipyard.
their workers.
And
The
the way
way
they workers.
It's
the way they pay
capitalism
their
because
workers.
you got some people that walk in the Newport News shipyard that's making $500,000 to $700,000 a year that are
Yeah.
employees of the shipyard. That's
But
capitalism, bro.
I let
That ain't
Jamie take
socialism.
over the conversation the
Go
way
ahead.
that the pay operates in shipyard. He's a Newport News employee. Let him voice the opinion on the socialist programs of Newport News.
Well, they just went up. They kicked their wages up to like $20-some an hour for if you just coming in. When I started, I was making $17.50. Well, no, actually $17.36. But before then, it was making like when Mac and them first started, it was probably making like $15 an hour. You know what I mean? It's gradually going up, but we kicking money. I'm not anymore. They kicking money back to the union. So the union is taking whatever you get from that. Know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I'm saying, and then you get taxes, and then whatever else. So I mean, right now it looks good for the people coming in making $20-some an hour, and people retiring because they leaving with their pension. But the people
Right.
in the middle, they getting like $1 and some
Yep.
bump
Yep.
every year, and it's not equating to the work that they do.
No, it's never going to equate to the work. But I will say this: the one thing I will say about the shipyard is the shipyard consistently gives increases. You have times in private sector where you don't get a raise. They just tell you, hey, if you don't like it, you got a choice to leave or stay.
Well, this past week, I know they got a bonus. They got
Oh,
$2,000 bonus,
nice. Nice.
but they won't see that whole bonus because it's
No,
getting taxed.
and it gets taxed at
And-
a 40% tax rate, by the way.
And they are not getting a raise this year because they
Yes.
gave them the bonus.
And the
the bonus-
shipyard also bring in contractors to pay more
Correct.
than the people that
Correct.
actually
Yeah.
work. They pay people
That's
way
enough.
more
Hey,
because they can't
leave
fill
that
the
one alone.
positions of value at the shipyard. At the end of the day, they pay people that sweep the same thing they pay people to weld pipe. So at the end of the day, people that's gonna weld pipe won't say, you know what? It's harder to weld pipe than to sweep. But if I get paid to save, I might as well sweep. So then
Hey, do you
run
know
out of
why they
pipe
do that?
welders, but you still need to weld pipe. So guess what? They got to bring me in to make way more person, and people in there that weld pipe hate me because of the amount of money I make compared to them.
Well, you
But
know
at
why
the
they
same
do
time,
that, though, right? You know why
Uh-huh.
they do that. There's a major difference in having an employee and a contractor.
Yeah,
There's a major difference. Like
exactly.
you could work for your company, right? As a W-2 employee, they have to pay taxes on you with the benefits, with the life insurance, and everything else. But as a contractor, you just an outright expense.
Okay,
And
so
Tiffany just made a point because that definitely goes on. You know what I'm saying? So to be honest, it's hard to fire a shipyard employee if they haven't done anything totally wrong. But you can fire that contractor for anything because he's an at-risk worker.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? He has no ties to the yard. He can get fired. 6 months later, he can come right back.
Yep.
If you're trying to find shipyard work, you have to go through the necessary steps. You have to go through this step, to then get rid of them. You know what I mean?
Okay, so
and then if you go to, if you're to apprentice school, you're an asset. So with you being an asset, they invest in you. So they putting all their money into this. So these people are getting paid quicker. They're getting their raises faster than a regular shipyard worker would get their raise. They get this every 3 months, and they on the fast track to moving up in the company because that's what they're there for.
Okay, so real quick, like, so that's one aspect of it. Then I'm gonna go to the military side of when I say socialism. All right, when you join the military, no matter what branch, I'm gonna go ahead and use the Marine Corps because I know a little bit about it. So when you join the military, whether you are an infantry guy or whether you're a cook, you make the same amount of money. And Corey's thing, he's saying that, well, obviously being an infantry guy is more difficult than being a cook. There should be more cooks than infantry guys, right? But that's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. Like, it all gets spread around. Everybody does a job. And in this socialist construct, because we will agree that it's a socialist construct, would you not, Corey?
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, so there's
So
things
start
that you can
listening,
do. There's things that you can do. There's things that you can do to accelerate your growth inside of it, but you still grow at a socialist rate where if you get to be an E2, everybody that's an E2 makes the same thing. It's not the brown guy makes a little bit more and the purple guy makes a little bit less. If you get to E2, that's what you make. And it goes all the way up, until you get to a point, like say once you get 20 years if you want to retire, and then you all get paid. So when you say socialism doesn't work, I know it works.
It doesn't though. I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why. Because even at that level playing field, you got somebody that's gonna invest, you got somebody that's gonna buy a Camaro. It's still not gonna be the same. It's not a level playing field. Just because you're making the same.
I'm talking about the resource. You're talking about, because like you and I have talked about it. Money is a tool.
It's a tool. Right.
I'm not talking about what they do with their tools. I'm talking about the distribution of those tools.
But that has to be considered though. What they do with their tools has to be considered, bro. That's a major piece of it, right? Because just like you're talking about their social construct, no disrespect to anybody that served in the military, you chose to sign that, right? Just like at a job, I can have somebody else that has the same title as me, and if I don't understand the value of the position that I'm in, I might get shorted $20,000. It doesn't exist in the military, but it's all based on how you value yourself and how you know how to manage your money and how you decide that, okay, if this ain't enough, I have two choices. Either I trust myself to move on and find additional sources and streams of income, or I'm working my way. But here's the thing. What is the real benefit in a company when you work? These stories, I climbed my way up from the bottom. You're lying. You snitched on somebody. You smooched somebody at the top and they fell in love with you, invited you over. You did not. You're not, because they want to cycle you out. The thing is, at some point, any good employee and somebody that knows their job, they're going to ask for more money. And the moment you start asking for more money, they start looking for more reasons to push you out. And they start that cycle all over again. And it's just a constant thing. So now you get to say, okay, I did this wrong this time, so I'm not waiting on no raise. Give me mine up front. And that's just how, like, when you a company, most companies in America work for profit. Most companies in America are they're not. Yeah, when you're not for profit, right? That's okay. But when it's a for-profit company, these companies are, number one, we talked about this today. It costs between $8,000 and $20,000 to onboard an employee. Right? So when you're there and you have that leverage, you get to, like I told you today, I've used that before. It was gonna cost you more money than just give me the raise. Because if I quit, you're gonna have to bring somebody else on. So to me, it's the mental. It's how you view money, not the source, a resource. Okay. So I don't think the minimum wage doesn't matter in a socialist or a capitalist structure if you don't have an understanding of how to manage that tool.
Okay. All right. So let's go to, like, Tawana's comment. She said many folks because what we saw was the biggest wealth gap in the history of the world happened during during the pandemic. She said many folks sat at home, collected unemployment and stimulus checks. The incentive to work has to be restored. Okay.
How do you restore the incentive?
Listen, the incentive part, I think the onus isn't on the employee. I think the onus is on the companies. And so when the incentive, like, and here goes the thing, people only do what they're incentivized to do. Now, I know that when I go and I buy my morning coffee, if I go and pay $2 for a coffee, and it has a sales tax of 8 cents, then I will pay $2.16. You tracking? No ifs, ands, buts about it. Now, with companies, on the other hand, they're getting away with all the loopholes and all the ways to not pay the same flat rate tax. And so again, this is one thing in which they are eating off the table, but that employee is his tax is coming straight out of his check. And so really what you're saying is you're saying the incentive has to be on the employee, when really there's companies that wealth gap, like what Amazon did is criminal. It is criminal. The margins are criminal. And so I think that really, I don't know how you spread the wealth, but I think the first start is I think all of these companies, we need to stop. We need to stop with trying to lower their tax liabilities, thinking that they'll leave or this, that, and the third. Everybody should pay the same amount of taxes, just point blank, period. And when you do that, that company has to realize that if my margins are this high, then I'm going to be taxed at this rate. Well, maybe I should go ahead and pay a little bit of this more salary out so that my tax implications will be lower. And that's the way you get the stuff up. It's by taxing them, man. That's the answer to it. You incentivize it by taxing them.
That's a great comment that Tiffany is putting out there. Even though I'm a component for socialism, I do agree with that. That the problem is the wealth they are saving their money and keeping their money at the top. You need to get them to pour it back into the economy. There's a lot of problems with the system. I mean, as far as like, it's easy to complain, but a lot of these problems, I mean, you could say, how can it be fixed? At the end of the day, these problems is money in politics is not going to change as long as money is in politics. At the end of the day, these companies and these people have the incentive to pay these politicians, not to move the needle. At the end of the day, capitalism, I believe capitalism does work when it's right, it's ran the right way. But right now, greed is taking over. But I don't believe socialism work at all.
What year was that? What year was that? What year was that when it was working?
At the end of the day, everybody here got a cell phone in their pocket. Capitalism built that. Everybody here go to Starbucks. You participate. You complain about Amazon, but I guarantee you got a package coming to your house. It's a good business. At the end of the day, you can't complain about capitalism. You participate in. If I look on your sweater right now, say Nike, that's a capitalist company. They have found a way to sell a product that you like to wear and buy. That's
they get nuts.
And right now, everybody in here participates, and we live in an economy that is growing. Because right now, the way I judge it, you can say what you want, but right now, ask yourself, are you doing better right now than your grandfather was? And that's how I gauge it. Everybody here in the chat, ask yourself, are you doing better now as an individual than your grandfather was? And if that question is yes, because everybody can't say that.
That's what? That's a good point, man. If you beat a man a lot yesterday and you beat him less today,
I'm saying growth. I'm not saying we all the way there, but it's growth.
What are we talking about, Corey?
We complain about growth. Like, it's not perfect. You want the world to be perfect today. No, we got
so here, I guess here's my question. Let's say that the playing field was level, Hal. How does that benefit the country?
Oh man. I think right now, and this is a different debate for another day, but I think the country is not well, especially mental health wise. Like, I mean, if you really want to be appalled before you go to sleep tonight, if you look at the suicide numbers, I just happened to look at them. I saw some on TikTok today. You look at the suicide numbers in America. If you look at the amount of mental health prescriptions that are going on in America, you look at the drug abuse that's going on in America, and you don't realize that us as a country, we are sick.
You said
And
the drug abuse.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
just period. I mean,
don't wanna talk about
like we are not well as a country. Like I think that this is just one more thing that is just like nobody wants to be poor. Poor is a stress.
bro.
Like and the
That's a
answer,
world problem, though. If
Yeah,
you look at it compared to the world, this is a world problem. You
It-
think
it's-
America is
but
somehow that much
bigger.
better to cure the world?
it's
problem?
like okay,
It
money
exists.
isn't taught here. It's not taught. People don't learn about how to manage money outside of if their parents were good with money or until they go to college and they're majoring in dealing with money. That's when you learn money. If you go out and you have no idea, you just see this bill. You look at $100 bill, people get excited. That ain't no money. As you get older, you realize $1 million ain't no money. And if you don't know how to, again, same thing I've always said, bro. Money with business, I agree. Businesses are to drive profit, right? But also one thing that people misconstrue with when it comes to profits is that sets up a business's next year. Part of the profits that they make get them to be able to add people to their head count, to be able to take stress off employees that are there. Now you know me, I don't always rock with corporate America, but I understand why it's the way it is, because when you look at it, bro, there's companies that donate millions of dollars and it helps ease their tax liability, right? We as people, the government give us a free $600 to write on our tax for goodwill. How many people don't do it? Right? So it is about the structure. Like, you don't get taught money, and it's not by accident that you don't get taught money. It's on purpose. Not being taught finances is what causes the capitalistic structure. That train is loud.
yeah, that's loud.
Would y'all disagree with that?
It did the same thing
Sound like
yesterday.
the jump from Hey Arnold.
It did the same thing yesterday.
But you get what I'm saying? Like, that is the major issue, bro. And we've talked about this hundreds of times. Personally, I don't think our people view money the right way. We look at money as the source instead of it being a tool to create access. It's an access, bro. It creates access. And that's what money is for. And until we create a standard, if we're going to send our kids to school, then we need to first make it a requirement that you teach money.
Okay.
You need to teach money.
Okay, so we getting towards the end of this thing, right? And I get that.
We got to do part two.
Listen, I'm gonna go ahead and say one thing, and this I want you to think about this. Use your abstract mind with this. You ready for this? Here goes the
That's what
abstract.
Ty said.
That's
That's a Franklin train.
Hey, so check this out, right? The constructs before are the same constructs as now. It's just different tools.
Bro, that joint's
Like,
shaking my house.
Yeah. So the constructs before, when a lot of time when you needed people to go to work, and you wanted to make sure they put to work, they used all types of things, whether it was threat of pain, intimidation, dismemberment, all types of stuff. At some point, we have gotten to a point where those threats don't exist anymore. The new threats are homelessness, starvation, but still, it's all the same thing to go to work.
Laziness.
Yeah,
Don't forget
yeah,
that
like
one.
it's all the same type of things to get you to go to work, and we're sitting here, and at this point, I feel like we're even arguing that it's the right way to be. And I think that at some point in the future, we will look back and people will say, "Man, I can't believe these people really actually went to work for pennies on the dollars, worked 40 hours a week, were sick, hungry, and tired, and they really thought this was the way to work." And they'll listen to this podcast and see that somebody argued for that side.
No, because here's the difference, right? Before we roll, like, that's not how I get down. My point is, now that you recognize it, what you gonna do about it? You either decide to stay in that structure or you break out from that structure. And the only way that you starve is if you don't get up and go do it.
It's true.
You got to do it. It's only, bro. I'm not going to put my family's livelihood in the hands of somebody that don't care about me the day I drop dead, they're gonna repost my job and hire somebody else to start the cycle over. They don't get that kind of power. So you got to take your power back. That's up to you. That's your mental, right? It all falls down to a choice. You choose what you accept, bro.
It's true. Hey, Jamie, it's on you first, man. We at the 5-minute mark. Let's go, bro.
Y'all have a good night. I enjoyed this. See you on the next episode.
All right. What you got, Corey? It's on you.
Yeah. I had it's an interesting conversation. I think these problems run deep. I think these are serious problems that exist in the world today. I think poverty is a problem. I mean, it's just the way it is. This thing has been going on since the existence of time. It's tough, but I mean, all in all, man, we just keep on pushing along, man. Be encouraged, man. Be encouraged.
All good. What you got, Ryan? Is on you.
Hey man, Miles Monroe said that the greatest dreams, ideas, talents, movies, books are in the grave. How many $1 billion ideas you sitting on?
Mm-hmm.
Outstanding. Man, this was cool. Just so you know, tomorrow, that's our admin day. We changed our admin day from Tuesday to Wednesday. So we will not be shooting Wednesday, but Thursday we're going to be live and direct. Again, I ask you, if you have a comment, if you have a idea, topic that you want to talk about, man, please go to that YouTube page, put it in the comment section. Pretty much most of y'all, you know how to get in contact with one of us. Shoot us a text, hit us up, let us know what you want. Again, bring a friend. Again, nothing is off the table that we won't talk about. So if you got an idea, something you won't talk about. if you got it, we'll vet it. And if it can be done, we'll do it. So, put that in there. I appreciate you guys rocking with us. I tell you, every time you come rock with us, it gets us closer to getting better. Every time we get an episode, we will get better. And thank you for supporting us in our passion. With that being said, love yours. We out.